back to the Recovering Out Loud podcast. I'm your host, Charles Van Loucks. Today, we have some very special guests with us from the Stout Street Foundation. Brad Lucero is the executive director, and we're also joined by Sharol Wells, who's the CEO and president. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So, I have a personal connection to Stout Street. I've had a couple of my friends who I've grown up with go through your program successfully. So just want to start out by thanking you guys for that, because they both kind of ran out of options. And I'm just grateful that there's something out there for them that could help them too. So why don't you start by just telling us a little about your history and just a little background on yourselves and the program.
Okay.
Absolutely. You want to go first?
Sure. My name is Sharol, and I came to the Stout Street Foundation in 1997 after a long history of jail and prison time, homelessness, drug addiction, just jumping around, couch surfing, just being out there in that world. Finally, Denver County made a decision to take me off the streets because I was not being successful out there. And so at that time, I was already a 3-time felon and looking at more prison time when the Denver County Drug Court accepted me into their program. They suggested that I come to Stout Street. Had no idea what Stout Street was, but I did know that it was better than where I was. So I came into the program June 9th, 1997. Didn't know what I was walking into, had no idea about peer support, people caring about me, or anything that had to do with family. Once I got into this program and was really able to use the tools that were given to me to teach me about relapse prevention, the ACEs, what was happening from my childhood that was bringing trauma in throughout my life, being able to recognize the left turns that I made instead of making right turns, being able to have peers and counselors around me that helped me to understand who I was. Today, when I take a look at being clean and sober, this Sunday will be 27 years from the Stout Street
Congratulations. Fantastic.
Absolutely. And when I take a look at where I was and where I am today, I am thankful to the Stout Street Foundation for taking the time to teach me what society wanted from me, teach me what my family wanted from me, teach me what I wanted from me, to be able to give me an opportunity for hope and a better life, and was able to come through this program and do what I needed to do to live again and to be able to get my son back in my life and be able to be the mom that I deserve to be.
Fantastic. Wow. Congratulations on your time
Thanks.
and welcome. So glad to have you here. Brad, would you like to touch on your background and Stout Street?
Absolutely. So I have kind of a unique journey here in that my dad actually founded Stout Street back in '76. So he was a recovering addict, same story as everybody else that's come through the doors since then. Just was not able to find sustained long-term recovery through short-term programs, right? And just kept bumping his head, and went out and saw a program in California called Delancey Street. And that model didn't exist in Colorado, the therapeutic community model. So he brought that back to Colorado, and a handful of folks got together and started the kind of initial program back then. I was born in '83, and so I grew up around Stout Street, and it was not in my long-term game plan to follow in those footsteps. Obviously, at that age, you can't really, being a kid and teenage years and all that stuff, you don't have really the point of reference as far as what it is that all these folks are doing together and what the bigger picture piece was. But as I grew and kind of continued to see, every year I would go to graduation ceremonies and I would see all these folks walk across the stage and smiles on their face and families in the crowd, that it's just an electric feeling, right? And so I had the opportunity to start the development department in 2006 here at Stout Street to get kind of a fundraising branch that Stout Street had not typically done prior to that. So I stepped into that role. It'll be 18 years ago on the 22nd of this month, and have just kind of slowly started getting more involved in every aspect of the day-to-day stuff here, and just excited to be a piece of this. I think watching Stout Street evolve from where it was when I first started to where we are today, I'm really proud of the steps that we've taken. I know we've still every day are continuing to try to grow and do what we can to make sure that the program itself is evolving with the times, right? And making sure that we have a safe alternative for folks that need a program like this. It's definitely not for everybody, but to your point, the folks that it's for get through our program and go out and do some really incredible things. So it's just awesome to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And, to be able to, reclaim your life again, right? Because I know that those friends I was speaking of earlier, they'd given up hope a long time ago. They thought they would be in and out forever. And luckily they weren't. And they were able to reclaim their lives, get back to it. And, you also spoke about growing up around Stout Street, and that's such an interesting thing to think about because, I have I have a 14-year-old son and I also have a 2.5-year-old daughter. And, my son just about to, become a freshman next year in high school. So we often have these conversations, around peer pressure, around parties, around, all that stuff, that's the beginning of all of our journeys, right? It's just a matter of how far down that rabbit hole we go sometimes. But just growing up around the program and recovery as a whole, I think is so beautiful, because we've had some really great conversations, even with some of his friends, like they were learning about some different like drugs and alcohol and stuff like that in one of their classes in school. And we were able to sit down and they had some really interesting questions for me about it. And we were able to have this open communication about it. So it didn't have to be hidden. It didn't have to be, oh no, dad can't find out or I'll get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that. So that's so cool to hear that that's how it was. How was it growing up around it? How did you find that experience?
It was definitely unique.
Yeah.
But, from the standpoint, I guess, from those developmental years, growing up around folks that, the rest of society not necessarily turns their back on, but doesn't really have a point of reference, right, for their history, where they're coming from. And so there was never that kind of association with addicts being bad people, right? It was just I would meet new people or tag along with my dad to work, and I'm sure in retrospect it was a 3-month resident that would be tasked with babysitting me for a couple hours so he could get work done. But it was just whoever that person was just another person, and I got to see people for who they were and not for what they had gone through or what their criminal history said they were. It was just, these are good folks, and they just needed an opportunity to take a step away from day-to-day life and really try to connect the dots of what caused them to get to the program in the first place. So I think that, is a trait that still, serves me at this point, because I'm able to connect with folks and meet them with where they're at. But at the end of the day, recognize that, everybody that's coming through this program is a son, a daughter, a father, a mother. They all have extremely unique stories as to how they made their way to Stout Street and where they're headed after Stout Street. But at the end of the day, it's just being a little part of their story along the way and trying to help wherever I can.
I was
Absolutely.
fortunate
Yeah.
to be able to not only be a resident under Brad's dad, but also be a staff member with his dad. And there was a message that he would always put out to everyone, and that was the people helping people, and that was to be available for people that need you. And Brad's dad was a special guy. He was a special. I'm just going to put it out there. He was a special guy, right? He had his own way of thinking, his own way of doing things. But when all was said and done, it was always for the good, and it was always for what he thought would be best. He looked out for everybody that came through the Stout Street doors, and he kind of sent that message to us as a program, and that is reach back and pull somebody up. And it's been our motto through thick and thin, going through this program myself and seeing people come through, even with people that go through our program that don't complete, go out there and don't always make good decisions. They give us a call, ask if they can come back, and we have an open door for those people to come back. No matter what you did when you went out there, as long as it wasn't anything that would prevent you from coming into our program, like arson or sexual offenses or some violent crime, then yes, we're a place of second chances and third chances and fourth chances.
And that's beautiful, because some people feel that they don't have those sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's so important to have that, because for our listeners out there, some of you are in recovery, some of you are support people of people in recovery, and it's important to realize that we're not defined by our past. I can tell you 9 years ago when I got into recovery, I was an extremely different person than I am today,
Mm-hmm.
and I chalked that up to recovery, changing my entire life around and everything. And sometimes it takes something different, something unique, something that we may not have thought would be a good fit sometimes, right? Sometimes it takes something like that to get to that place. We have to remain open minded. We have to remain teachable. We have to get to a place where we're ready to accept what people have to say. Sometimes it takes surrendering, getting out of our own head. And I think it's important to realize that, especially if you're kind of on the fence thinking
Yeah.
about getting into recovery, it's important to know that. And also just remember that, your best thinking got you into either a chair in a meeting or on this show or, as a viewer. So take that next step, give it a shot because, we can all tell you that there's absolutely something better on the other side. No matter how grim your picture looks, no matter how long your sheet is, doesn't matter. You always got a home. So,
100%.
I love that. Thank you guys. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk real quick about you have a few different programs. You have the 28-day Serenity program, and you also have your 2-year program. Can you tell me about those?
Yeah, the 2 year program is called the Stout Street Foundation. And one of the things that we know is that for hardcore addicts or people that have been in a behavior for a really long time, you need a little bit more time to get your feet solid on the ground. I was one of those people that needed more than a short term program. Short term wasn't going to work for me. It was just going to give me a little bit of time to get clean and get my brain thinking again to figure out how to be another criminal. And that's what I learned about short term. And that was just for my story personally. But for me, I needed to have an opportunity to start my life over again, to be able to have time, to be able to go through the aspects of my addiction, to be able to understand what was happening to me, what had happened to me, and what was I going to do to change that. And I needed 2 years. I had to have 2 years So the Stout Street Foundation is a 2-year residential recovery community where we allow men and women 18 years or older to come into our program. All they have to do is tell us that they have an issue with substance use and that they have enough patience in their life to sit for 2 years and get themselves together. So the 2-year program is basically a place for our residents to come. It doesn't cost the resident a dime to come into this program. This program doesn't cost anyone anything. What we do is we allow people to come into this program. We give them a work ethic. We give them a living ethic. All we ask is that they follow a rule and want to be clean and sober. And if you think about it, that's probably one of the hardest things that an addict has to commit to, and that's following a rule and wanting to be clean and sober. So for anyone applying to our program, they would give us a call at our intake department. We would do a short over the phone interview with them, basically wanting to get a commitment from them, find out if we were a good fit for them coming into our program. So there's a few things that stop an individual from coming into our program: arson charges, sexual offenses, and some violent charges. We do take an exception to domestic violence if it's 5 years and older. We've learned through addiction that domestic violence and addiction kind of go hand in hand. We've been finding that out as we have interviewed many people. A lot of their domestic violence charges had something to do with some drug-related something. So we will get a background check or a police record or whatever if we had any questions about it. But if it's 5 years or older, right, and there's not a pattern of violence with this individual, they normally will be accepted to come into the program. We don't have any waiting here. We have bed space for anyone that's interested in coming into treatment. They would come into our program. We do have some protocols that need to happen because we want people to start fresh. We take away all of the imagery that they may have had out there, like jewelry and makeup and money. And the men get their head shaved to get started straight fresh from the beginning. The women have no makeup, no jewelry. And then they come into treatment. The first 30 days is the orientation of our program, where they learn rules and regulations in a classroom setting. And then after 30 days, they are assigned a counselor and also a job assignment. We have 15 job sites in the metro area that we contract with, that we send our residents to, where they get vocational training, where many people that come into treatment, most of them never had a real job and never had any kind of work ethic to get up and go to work every day. So what we do is we teach people what society expects out of them. So they go to work at a job site that is assigned to them, and they work to get their treatment paid for through that company. That money comes back to the Stout Street Foundation, where we take care of every need that an individual has. It doesn't matter what it is, from clothing to medical, to dental to vision. It doesn't matter. Whatever that resident needs, we will supply that for them. Once they finish the 18 months of residential treatment in our facility, they go to our sober living house, which is 6 months of being semi on their own out there. They have responsibilities where they'll have their own job, their own bank accounts. They are still accountable to us for UAs, checking in with their case managers, and making sure that they have a savings account so that when their 6 months is over with, they will be sustainable to move to the next phase of their life, and that is getting back out into the community and being productive citizens again.
Wow. What an all-encompassing approach, to really cover all the basis of not just, how to live a life in recovery away from substances, but really how to retrain ourselves to get back into the world in a healthy way,
So
constructive way. Yeah.
Speaking of getting back into the world with healthy thinking now, treatment is in the evening times here. So between 6:45 and 9:30, Monday through Friday, our residents are in treatment, whether they're doing relapse prevention classes, GED, CBT, DBT, maladaptive schemas, aftercare prep. We have classes that are assigned throughout their entire stay here where they learn about addiction, they learn about lifestyles, life traps, and they learn how to create a toolbox for themselves in order for them to have these ready tools for when things come their way that are adverse or scary or emotionally, because life still goes on. We have people that come through this program where there are tragedies that happen in their families where if they were out on the streets, they'd be using. But here we have support. We have people that will understand and comfort and walk them through things that we usually used to make an excuse to use for. For many people like myself, um, coming through this program and being able to create a toolbox that I have today was probably the biggest thing that Stout Street ever could have gave for me, and that was being able to tell me what to do when I'm sad or scared or mad or happy. All these tools mean something to a person that goes around uh, our our building in recovery. These tools mean something to them. When we try to teach them to use them, to be able to keep themselves safe at all times.
Absolutely. And I love the approach of the longer length of stay, followed up by sober living as well, because
Mm.
personally, I went through treatment, and when I got out, I felt that there was kind of a lack in aftercare for
Mm.
myself. I wish I would have had something extra, a coach or whatever, and that's part of the reason I got into coaching work. But I just feel that having that extra bit of accountability, having that extra time to get out into the world, try some things out, and see what works, see what doesn't work. Because one thing to keep in mind about recovery is that we're genuinely starting new lives. We're genuinely becoming new people, and part of that is having to kind of re-meet ourselves a little bit and see like, oh, okay, what scares me now? Because I haven't been substance free since I was, 12 years old, right? So that's a whole lot of time with substances, and now I've taken them away. What does it feel like to be in the world without those substances, right? Is it jarring? Am I now anxious in public? Do I what do I enjoy to do? What scares me? What makes me angry? I mean, there's a lot of different things to take into consideration with that. So having the longer period to adjust to that and a community to return to, whether it's the sober living or whatever, I mean, that's so important. I feel like, because that, I think that gives people a really really good chance to succeed and to be able to see, oh, okay, I didn't know this was a problem for me, or hey, I'm really strong with this, I didn't even realize it you know
One of the biggest struggles that I think happened with me when I got out of treatment, and that was feeling this obligation to go back to my old friends and see them and have them see me as being this person that's changed and I'm clean and I'm sober, and finding out they really didn't care. And so, with the aftercare that I got a chance to participate in, I was able to meet new people and new friends and have a whole different group of support people around me where I didn't feel like I was getting out of Stout Street and going back out there to the world and I was going to be alone. So I needed to go find the old friends and the old hangout and hang back out with those people. Today, what our aftercare is, it's a sober living house where everyone lives together and they grow together and they go through their trials and tribulations together and they support each other there in
Uh,
sobriety. There's no drugs
yeah.
and alcohol involved in it.
Hmm.
That was helpful for me.
And I think, Charles, the most powerful part of Stout Street's program or any therapeutic community model is the community part in general, right? And being able to have a peer ran environment where folks that are older in the program that have gone through, say a year here at Stout Street, they get put into positions of leadership in the house where they're then tasked with helping the folks that are at day one or day
Mm-hmm.
30 and being able to sit down and compare notes or hear somebody's story that was exactly in your same shoes, not the exact same story, but getting here and being at arguably rock bottom and wanting hope, right? That's what everyone is looking for, is knowing that there's the possibility of a different life out there. And when you have tangible evidence of residents that have gone through the program coming back and sharing their stories with younger residents and saying, I understand walking through these doors is scary. I understand on paper the program, when you stand there and look at, I can't give up 2 years of my life. That's wild. But when you look at how many years you wasted prior to making that commitment. And then to Cheryl's point earlier about our vocational training partners, we have such amazing partners right now that are so pro recovery, pro Stout Street, that they'll hire residents that are in the first phase of our program, work with them, grow them into great employees, and then when they get to that 18-month mark, hire them to be full-time employees while still then filling in those positions with newer residents. And so our residents that are going out to a job site after a couple months are then able to see, again, there's a career, there's a life after this, that if I do what is expected of me and I'm committing to that change, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It may be a long tunnel, but when you're able to kind of compare those notes and say, I had lost everything and now I'm getting it back by doing A, B, and C, it's a playbook that it's not anything where you have somebody from the outside world that may not have that same lived experience that can come in and tell you, you need to do A, B, and C so you can have this, but you can actually see this is what happened for me. And that's the most powerful part in getting the buy-in, and those folks then, get employed at these vocational training partnerships, and they get to be mentors for folks that are coming up. And I don't know, it's a really unique but awesome piece about being here.
Absolutely.
Never,
And that sorry, go ahead, Cheryl.
no, never in a million years I'm listening to Brad would I have thought of resident president on my resume. Never.
Oh, that's fantastic, though, and what a journey to get to that place after going through that program and everything. And one thing that I've um, always gravitated towards is that peer model across the board. And it's just so much different than having someone who says, "Oh, I have studied you in class, and I have many degrees, and I mean, it's like, come on, you don't know me, right?" But it's, I mean, having somebody who's actually been through it, and who's there to talk to, who's there to show you the way, to be a guide. I mean, that's amazing. And you spoke about seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, and I think for some people, when they're at their bottom, it's really dark. They see
Yeah.
no light. It's just a really long tunnel, and being able to get even just a little glimpse of light, that's that beginning of those gifts of recovery, in my opinion. And being able to start to see, oh wow, Bob over there, wow, he's actually succeeding. Maybe I can succeed too. And maybe I can follow in those footsteps, reclaim my life, get my kids back, do the whole thing. And that's, I mean, just that as its own, ecosystem. Beautiful. That's beautiful. And I really love that the entire place is peer led. I think
Yeah.
that just shows that it's more of a even, for lack of a better term, an even playing field. Let's say it's not saying, hey, we're the staff and you're the patients. No, we're all here together. We've all been through this together. We're all helping each other together at the highest levels, right? So that's beautiful. I'm really glad that you guys structured it that way. And I think that's a very, very unique approach that's helpful for the client. Because at the end of the day, it has to be client facing work. And I think that's what you guys are doing. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention also your golf tournament. You have is it an
It
annual
is.
golf tournament every year? Very
Yep.
cool. Now, let me just tell you, I would love to enter, but if I can get the thing to go straight, I'm happy. So I'm absolutely terrible at golf, but it's fun, and I'd love to hear more about it. What do you guys
Yeah,
do?
absolutely. So that was one of the first pieces that I put together with the development department when we started. One of our board members at that point, Joanne Law, kind of took me under her wing and knew that I didn't have a ton of experience in the excuse me nonprofit fundraising field. So she brought me out to a golf tournament so I could see what it looked like in person, and we put one together in 2006. So this is our 18th golf tournament coming up on May 30th at Arrowhead Golf Club. So there's still some spots available if anybody's interested. It's a great time. And Charles, it doesn't matter if you're going out there and just hacking around. It's just a good group of folks that are excited to support an awesome cause. And it's a beautiful golf course. And so we're looking forward to another good turnout this year. But it's just turned into a really cool event where our partners in the community come out and support us, and we have an opportunity to just kind of get out on the course, and nobody's trying to break any records. We're just out there having fun and trying to raise some money for a good cause.
Well, I know that my boss, Terry Smith from Connect, she'll be there with some of our coaches. And
Yeah.
I believe you guys both know Terry, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Long
yeah,
time.
I was
Yeah.
lucky enough to work with Terry for over a decade. She was here as our development director for a lot of years. So um, Terry's a rock star, and it's just been awesome to watch her grow and watch Connect kind of grow from its infancy and her grinding and doing everything that she's done to help expand that network and be able to ultimately get out and help many more folks along the way. It's been awesome. So she's just one of those unique people that I know is always going to be a part of Stout Street, always a part of our lives, and any way we can help each other is where we're at.
Yeah, she's my bestie. We've
Oh.
been friends since we've been friends since '97.
Oh,
Terry and
wow.
I. Yeah, so
Cool.
we both came up going through treatment together in two different places, but we played softball against each other. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
I love that.
she's
So,
she's a rock star. She's doing the thing. I'm
yeah.
super proud of her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was actually the very first coach that she ever hired.
Oh
That's
wow,
awesome.
Yeah,
nice.
back in the day. Yeah. But yeah, I look forward to that golf tournament, and for any of our viewers who are interested in either learning more about Stout Street or the golf tournament, I'll have all the links down in the description below.
Perfect.
And any questions or comments you have, feel free to post them there, and I'll address them on our next show. And yeah, any closing remarks from either one of
I
you?
guess we kind of skipped over the Serenity portion as well. Let's
Oh,
circle back on that really quick. So we
absolutely.
have a really unique campus off of I-70 in Quebec. We're in a former Economy Inn hotel. So we opened a 28-day program back in 2005, I believe.
Fine.
Um, and so we have that here on site as well as just a way of having additional services. We really tried to look at ways to kind of expand our campus to offer additional services as well. And so the information for the 28-day programs on there, we're able to accept Medicaid clients for that program. And we've had a good handful of folks over the years that have gone through the 28-day program and then realized that that wasn't enough, and requested to then transfer over to the therapeutic community to continue their recovery journey. And so it's just kind of it's an opportunity to have these two different programs here with our unique staff for both, and be able to offer the opportunity for folks to either in the 28-day program kind of get started early on in the recovery journey, but also have a longer term program available for folks that 28 days just isn't enough, right? We get a lot of people that go through multiple 28-day programs or and just continue to not be able to connect those dots, and for those folks, that's what the 2-year program is designed for, to be able to have an alternative to that kind of rotating door. So it's another opportunity. Same website, stoutstreet.org, has all the information for all of our events, all the programs, all the connection for our admissions department. And if there's any, general questions, obviously, if somebody is reaching out, a family member or somebody interested themselves, our outreach staff is really well trained in being able to kind of figure out what that individual needs. And if it's not a program that we offer them, we try to get them all the resources that we can to find what they need, and ultimately just be that point of contact to start with, and then go from there.
That's fantastic, because the reality is no two people recover in the same way. So the ability to have many different pathways is so key, and for our viewers, it's important to remember also that we have to try different things. We have to see what fits, see what works. And, starting somewhere, just anywhere possible with recovery, just starting somewhere and just going from there, because we're going to try lots of different things, and some of them fit, some of them don't fit. That's okay, but just being open-minded to trying. So I love that you guys have that, both of those as options there, because, sometimes it does take more, it does take a longer amount of time, because, we certainly didn't, get addicted overnight and ruin our lives overnight and have to restart. So sometimes it takes more time, because, one of the biggest things in particular doing my coaching work that I've seen is some people will try to just remove the substance from their life, but keep everything else the same. Mm-hmm. All they've done now is just simply remove their way of coping with their situation. That's it, right? So it's so important to really recraft that whole new life, and because like you were talking about, returning to those old friends as well and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it can be very, very difficult when you feel stuck in a certain lifestyle. You feel stuck with a certain group. You feel you can't leave, right? But having these places, these programs, I should say, at Stout Street as options, you can leave, you can go, you can start fresh, you can hit that reset button and get whatever kind of life you want. Literally, they have, they've been talking about work training, they've been talking about job placement. I mean, you can go back to school. There's like literally endless options. So check out the links if you're on the fence, and reach out, talk to some people who have gone there, call Stout Street, talk to them. The person answering that phone has been through the program, ask them about it, and give it a shot, because there's always something better around the corner. You just have to be, have to have your eyes open to see it. So
take the step.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on today, and I look forward to hearing more about the awesome work you guys do, and we'll see you on the greens.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Yeah, thank you.